Hey, so do y'all remember in the build-up to the spring 2013 season when Kyoto Animation announced that the swimming anime was going to be a full series and the internet, particularly Tumblr, lost its collective shit? I do. I definitely do. And I'll be honest, I watched both seasons of free Iwatobi Swim Club, and I enjoyed it immensely. I'd probably enjoy the movie too if it ever got a North American release. Come on, Crunchyroll, Funimation, why are y'all like this? I liked the pretty boys, and the pretty animation, and the fun opening, and the ridiculous ending, and holy shit, the fan service. So, when in the build up to the fall 2016 season, Studio Mappa announced Yuri on Ice, I was pretty excited. It seemed to promise a lot of the same things that Free had. Cute boy sports anime with fan service and pretty animation. It promised to be like Free, but the pool is frozen, the boys are back in town, 2.0 Winter Edition. Hell yeah, I'm up for that. Now, all those qualities don't inherently mean I was going to love the show. Heck, 2016 Summer's attempt with Cheer Boys was boring as hell. I don't think anybody watched it. But never really in 1,000 years did I think that Yuri on Ice was going to be better than Free. And let's be honest, Yuri on Ice is better than Free. Much better than Free. Now, spoilers ahead if you haven't seen all of Free and all of Yuri on Ice, but here's my thesis. Free Iwatobi Swim Club and Yuri on Ice, despite their obvious similarities, have three very distinct differences, which cause Yuri on Ice to be more enjoyable and satisfying for me personally. 1. Their treatment of same-sex attraction. 2. The development and variety of their secondary characters, particularly women. And 3. The maturity and realism of their emotional depth. 1. How the show treats same-sex attraction. For this section, we need to start by talking about queer baiting, what it is, how to spot it, and why, as a queer fan, it kind of sucks. So, definition first. In general, queer baiting is a term used to describe an attempt by canon creators to woo queer fans and/or slash fans by hinting at LGBT characters and/or relationships, but with no intention of actually making it canon. This is done by either introducing a character who is coded as queer in some meaningful way, or by hinting that two same-sex characters might be attracted to each other, but never confirming these things. Worst yet, these hints tend to be explained away as jokes. Often, instead of getting same-sex couples, the idea of same-sex couples is made into a joke. Now, the term queerbaiting comes from a very Western context. It's a concept developed in the West to talk about Western media, and there is some debate about whether or not that specific term can be applicable to anime and Eastern media. Especially since a lot of anime that engage in this aren't trying to bait queer fans, but are specifically trying to bait straight women who like watching hot guys make out. But then that could be argued as being partly true in the West as well. Regardless of whether or not the specific term queerbaiting is the best to use here, or if we should go with fan baiting or some other alternative, the underlying concept is the same. A show that deliberately hints at a queer relationship and then never delivers in order to appeal to a wide variety of fans, but lacks real representation. So, does Free Iwatobi Swim Club bait? Hell yes it does. It very intentionally seems aimed at Japanese fujiyoshi, Japanese straight female fans who like slash and yaoi and boys love, and to an extent, it seems aimed at queer fans who are incredibly interested or invested in seeing same-sex relationships in media. Now, there's a whole conversation to be had about fujiyoshi culture and how it objectifies queer men, but that's for another day. And let me be clear. Baiting doesn't inherently make a show bad. If nothing else, it can lead to a very vibrant fan community. And as a queer anime fan myself, I fall for this shit hook, line, and sinker every damn time. I'm basically helpless when it comes to this stuff. But make no mistake, baiting isn't a good thing either. It isn't progressive writing. It isn't diverse writing. It isn't writing that helps positive minority representation in media. The goal of baiting is to titillate fans with emotional fan service, but not actually commit to writing LGBT characters. And make no mistake, anime as a whole does not have a great track record with representing LGBT people in positive ways. There are exceptions, naturally, but as a whole, there isn't a lot there that is positive and well done. And if you are invested in seeing that kind of representation, constant baiting can be frustrating and disheartening. So, free baits. The characters flirt and look at each other longingly and splash in the water together and take random spur-of-the-moment vacations to Australia to meet each other's foster families, and all their emotional stakes are tied to each other, and they have the most intense friendship, and nothing ever happens. Yuri on Ice, though. Yuri on Ice came through for us. I think the fandom is still in shock. I'm in shock, because, this shit doesn't happen. But here it is. It happened. They flirted and blushed and kissed and rings. Y'all, engagement rings. And they pair skate at the end. We have professional figure skaters tweeting about this show, and the creator talking about how Yuri and Victor can't live without each other on Twitter, and how so many fans thanked her for the kiss in episode 7, and this kind of thing just doesn't normally happen. It's so incredibly rare for us to get healthy, positive depictions of same-sex relationships outside the very narrow genre of boys' love and girls' love in anime, which has their own issues. And while Yuri on Ice may not always be explicit with the romantic elements all the time, they are far from subtle. The repeated declarations of love, Yuri is skating on his love, how meeting Victor has taught him about love, how Yuri has taught Victor about love. Only the most hard-hearted adamant could try to no-homo this pair. And since the finale is strongly implying a sequel, and Kubo has said that she would like to continue the story, I think it's safe to hope for even more romantic development in the future. Like, a wedding? Please? A wedding? So, for those of us for whom seeing depictions of same-sex relationships done well is important, this is a big deal. And that's not to say that Yuri on Ice has perfect same-sex relationship representation and is the sole standard bearer without flaw. It certainly has pros and cons and has its own place within the Japanese media landscape. But it's good. And it's certainly more satisfying than free, for me, as a queer fan. But that's not all I'm going to talk about. Baiting versus canon may be the most obvious and important difference between these shows, but it's not the only one. 2. Side characters are like a thing. There's girls in this show too. Quick, name all the female characters you can from Free. Who all could you think of? The teacher, Miss Amakata, and Ko, right? Maybe you remembered that Ko has that friend, but I bet you forgot her name. It's Chigusa. Maybe, the wife in the couple that Rin stayed with in Australia? Makoto's little sister? It's pretty scarce. 2 secondary characters and maybe 3 tertiary ones? And it's understandable why this is. Free is a cute boy sports anime. Any amount of time that we spend giving Ko screen time is time we aren't watching Nagisa and Rei flirt. Makoto, being total husband material, is the only one of the boys who we really see interact with their family. Rin and Ko rarely talk to each other. Nagisa's family is only talked about, but never seen. Haru was born from the ocean, I guess? Amakata and Ko do have personality, and I love them, but they are only 2 characters. Makoto's sister only exists to characterize Makoto. You can't describe any of her thoughts or likes or personality beyond that relationship. The wife in the couple that Rin stayed with? I can't even find her name on the internet. Now, name all the female characters you can from Yuri on Ice. So, there's Minako, and Mari, and Yuko, and the triplets, and Mila, and Sarah, and Yuri's mom, Hiroko, and Yurio's ballet teacher. All of these characters are seen multiple times, have speaking roles, and have some thought written into them beyond just what they tell us about the men. Yuko was the star of the ice rink when she was young. She's a young mother who still loves skating. Minako is a dancer and owns a ballet studio, loves drinking too much, and wants to meet famous skaters. The triplets are young girls who are skating otaku. They are overzealous and like being on social media. We can describe nearly all of these characters in meaningful ways without ever mentioning their relationships to men. And look, it's not a secret that I'm a feminist. I like seeing well-written female characters, but more than just my preference, a lack of women in a story can make the world feel a lot narrower, less fleshed out, less believable. This gender disparity doesn't break free by any means, and plenty of anime are incredibly girl-heavy, with almost no boys. We know why this happens too. It's done to more aggressively market a show to an intended gender demographic. But to see a sports anime able to include a decent number of developed female characters, I think that's a strong testament to the writing of Yuri on Ice and its wide appeal. 3. The emotional maturity. The last meaningful difference that I'm going to talk about between these shows is probably the most nebulous to describe. The best I can do is this. Free tries to capture how emotional teenagers feel about their inner conflicts in exaggerated and juvenile ways. Yuri on Ice shows adults navigating their inner conflicts in more natural and healthy ways. A lot of this can be boiled down to the characters' ages and the assumed age of the intended audience, but I think the quality of the writing affects it too. So, when the entire swim team has a meltdown because they secretly suspect that Rei is cheating on them with the track team, or when Nagisa runs away from home forever to live in a tent because his parents want him to focus on school and not swimming, or when Rin breaks down crying all the goddamn time in season 1 because of sexual tension with Haru or something, or when Rin has to kidnap Haru for a vacation to Australia to save him from an existential crisis, we all kind of roll with it, and we post gifs about our feels and accept it because they are teenagers in anime and everything is dramatic. Now, Yuri on Ice is a sports anime about adults. Yuri is 23, Victor is 27. That doesn't mean they don't have problems or deal with drama, but it does mean that problems are met with a sense of realism and maturity. Look, Yuri's dog died and he bombed his tournament and ends up crying in a bathroom stall. It's sad, but relatable, and he doesn't try to run away and live in a tent. Makachin gets sick and might die, and Yuri is afraid that Victor leaving might make his performance suffer. But they talk about it, and Victor goes to be with his dog, and Yuri does his best anyway. Yuri has anxiety that flares up before competitions, and Victor does his best to support him. And when Victor is overwhelmed with this anxiety and messes up being a good coach, Yuri and him talk about it. They talk like people do. The most emotional drama we get in the series is Yuri considering retiring and cutting things off with Victor in the finale, which gets resolved by the end of that episode. But no one has to bottle up secret career-ending injuries for an entire season from their best not boyfriend because they are overdramatic high schoolers. Ultimately, this last point probably matters a lot more to me than most people. Anime as a whole is so super saturated with teenagers with hyper melodramatic emotions that having a sports anime show where the characters react in reasonable and healthy ways is just really nice. So, what am I saying? What's the point? Am I saying that Free is a bad show? No, not at all. If you like cute boys doing sport things and can stand or even enjoy the baiting, then hell yes, watch the hell out of that show. Go nuts. Draw fan art and write fanfics and fight about Makoto Haru versus Rin Sosuke. Whatever. Rin Haru for life though. But I think it's important that we do appreciate when a show is pretty good and pretty fun, like Free is, and when a show goes above and beyond. When a show has real canon representation for same-sex relationships, and a decent gender balance, and well-conveyed emotional depth, I want us to care. I want the difference between a 7 out of 10 and a 10 out of 10 anime to matter. I want us to recognize when a show makes history. Thanks for watching this video. This channel is still really new, so any likes or comments are super appreciated. I'm really new to making video essays instead of just Tumblr posts, but I'm really enjoying it, so I'm hoping I can make more videos like this. If you enjoyed listening to a millennial feminist with a BA in English ramble about stuff I like for a while, feel free to subscribe. I'll be making more of these as soon as I can.